Hello and welcome to another Toon Network match report. It's just gone full time at Southampton and it's finished Southampton 2, Newcastle 2 at St Mary's. And let's break it down. Let's see what happened. Usually St Mary's is spelled kind of misery for Newcastle in recent history. It seems to be a bit of a bogey ground for us. So I think a lot of us would have been pleased with maybe a point today. That's exactly what we've got. But maybe we can feel a bit aggrieved that we probably were the architects of our own downfall with a couple of mistakes. I felt a couple of their goals were a bit cheap. But we were very efficient in the final third with what little possession we had. But let's talk through the first half anyway. So first off was the when we took the lead, it seemed to be quite well. It seemed to be sort of a bit against the run of play and a bit of a surprise. But I've got to say the tenacity and determination of the Jose Perez when he was charging down that left wing. And I think it was Van Dijk tackled him and he was on the floor, but he just stretched out a leg to just nudge the ball through to Matt Ritchie. He crossed it, came out to Atsu, who hit a really good strike, that was blocked, and then it came out to Hayden, and Fraser Forster had already been down from Atsu's shot, but the way Hayden struck it was venomous, but it was really controlled. And it seemed to have a bit of zip, like it had a bit of curve on the ball. It sort of hit some side, and he just hit it well. It wasn't massively in the corner or anything, but it was just. I thought it was just a really, really solid strike. Really impressed, and Perez's work rate as part of that move to keep it alive was great. I mean, Forster had a bit of a shaky start, given that early on Perez had charged down a back pass to Forster, who tried to clear it. He took a really poor first touch, and Jose, as he does, runs his heart out and charged it down, and it probably just shattered the confidence of Newcastle's former academy player Fraser Forster. So that was really pleasing, but then in the second half, I felt that Gabbiadini goal, I mean, I think it was about the 49th minute or something, straight after the break. We seem to have a lot of men back, and Manquillo seemed to do a really good jockeying job on Gabbiadini, just to stop him getting in. Gabbiadini sort of went around the houses to get onto his left foot, his favoured left foot. And it was odd, because I'm looking at it again, Manquillo did really, really well to jockey him. He stayed with him, he stayed on his feet, but it still felt like a really, really cheap goal to give away. And I don't know if that's because, obviously when it goes through the legs of the defender, that's going to make it difficult for the goalkeeper. But I wonder whether Elliott didn't set himself right from Gabbiadini being near post to go all the way around to the edge of the box and it cut it back across. I appreciate that that's probably the only place he could have scored at that point. But for him to find that near post still, after we jockeyed him and we had that many players in the box and it seemed to be a bit of a nothing attack, it just felt really cheap and easy, and it was really frustrating, and it gave Southampton, who had been shell-shocked a bit and loss of confidence, as they have been, they haven't had the greatest starts to campaigns. I think they'll be alright because they've got some good players, but Maurizio Pellegrini is still finding his feet in English football. But Southampton seemed to completely switch off straight away from the kickoff. And again, it was Perez who was really heavily involved in that move. I think it was Yedlin that came out with the ball, passed it to Shelvey, who passed it forward, got knocked to Perez, who was a give and go, came to Ritchie on the wing. He hit a really nice precision ball right into the space ahead of Perez, who had a strike. Again, it was probably quite comfortable for Forster, but he sort of punched it back out towards Perez again, who was the quickest to react. And again, Forster hasn't set himself quickly enough, and he's left a gap. As acute an angle as it was that Perez scored from, really clean. Again, like Hayden's, Perez just concentrated on a controlled strike that was accurate and hope for the best, I guess. And it went in, and Forster left quite a big gap. If you look at the replay, quite a big gap in the end. So that was amazing. It was a brilliant instant reply, and I just kind of felt there was a couple of moments in that second half where I thought we might have maybe just nicked a third. You know, we had a couple of corners. We had I think we had 8 corners all together, and Southampton didn't have as many as that. Richie had an effort blocked from the outside of the area when it was laid off to him. But ultimately, we were out of possession for most of it, as you can expect, as it has been the story for pretty much every Premier League game this season. But then equally, we were pretty defensively disciplined as well. Obviously, that lapse in the first for Southampton's first goal. But then for the penalty, Florian Lejeune back in the side after Clark was rested from internationals. Equally, Marino, I hate when people call him Mourinho. Miguel Marino, who's just signed permanently, was rested as well because he was in action for the Spain under-21s. So Lejeune's committed on Shane Long, who's got really quick feet anyway, and he was going absolutely nowhere. And if he hadn't tackled him, Shane Long's just he's just told the ball out for a goal kick. But Lejeune's gone storming in. He's been absolutely done, and it's just such a silly, cheap, again, just a really cheap way to concede. The penalty was really impressive from Gabbiadini, I must admit. Middle of the goal, side netting, like you cannot save them. He'd put most of his penalties to the keeper's bottom right, where he missed one actually and scored the others, but yeah, I don't think Elliott's going to be saving that. But again, it just felt really cheap. And I wonder, obviously Lejeune's come in and he was injured obviously in the Spurs game. He's not found his way back into the side because Clark and Lascelles have been keeping him out. But I wonder that Clark was being rested for being involved in international duty. Lejeune's come in, and although he might be physically refreshed and fit because he hasn't had internationals, I wonder if mentally he's still a bit fatigued, or he's still not up to the pace, or I think he was sound throughout the most of the game, but it's these moments that can turn a win into a draw, sometimes into a defeat as well. But I don't want to lambast him too much because it was his first game back, and I think it's good to have a bit of rotation and competition in there. And I think he's been a great sign. I think he will continue to improve and develop under Rafa Benitez, but in that moment, I think he's let himself down there, and it's kind of cost us. Yedlin then, who had been booked in the first half for dissent, I think it was, then went in a really dangerous challenge, which I felt should have absolutely been a second yellow, should have been a red card. The referee pondered for a bit. He's sort of absorbed what's happened. Lascelles came straight over to try and chat him out of it. I think we're extremely, extremely fortunate not to get a red card. Equally, as I thought, Richie was fortunate not to get a red card against Swansea, I think it was. I think we've got away with one there, and I wondered whether Benitez was going to take him off, but then the pace that they've got on the wings, Benitez obviously thought that it was a risk worth taking to have him on the pitch still. So we were very fortunate then, but I think after that yellow card and after that incident where he probably should have got a second, Southampton brought Boufal on, and I just, from their perspective, I didn't feel that they tried to penetrate our right hand side enough, knowing that Yedlin's, half a second mistake away from, being sent off. I didn't feel like they attacked us enough down that left hand side, or at least asked enough questions. Obviously, Richie's a really good defensive winger, and he came back and sort of helped out as he would have done anyway, and as he was doing. But for me, Southampton didn't really create that many clear-cut chances. Their finishing was poor, and they only had 2 shots on target today. and they scored with both of them. So Elliott hasn't made a save today. So they've had 2 shots on target, and one of them was a penalty, and then the other was that first Gabbiadini goal, which he's done very well as an individual goal, but our defence probably should have managed to keep out. So you can kind of see where their issue is. You know, their issue is being able to finish up top. They haven't scored a lot of goals this season, and Forster's shakiness as well, and that was proven again with sort of, you know, parrying a Shelvey cross-come shot out for a corner. He just looked like he was ready to make another mistake, and as much as we had a kind of late flurry, I think a couple of more corners. I mean, we managed 5 shots on target in the end, despite only having, I mean, we had in the end 38.3% possession, which that doesn't surprise me, and it probably doesn't surprise any of you either. But we've had 8 corners and we've had 5 shots on target to their 2. So as much as, again, it's this question of efficiency. It's the question of us having to do a lot more with a lot less. It's similar to the Liverpool game. We didn't have that many chances in the final third, but we didn't have as clear-cut chances as Liverpool did, but because they were so profligate in front of goal, we matched them and we got a point, and the same's happened today. I think it's a really, really good away point. As I said before, Southampton's usually a place that we come away from empty-handed. It's happened since the days of Matt Le Tissier in the 90s. We've never usually done well at Southampton, either the Dell or St Mary's. But I was really pleased with how we battled hard. I was really pleased with how high we pressed. I thought the midfielders played well. We maybe struggled at times to hold on to the ball and control. Obviously the possession stat tells you that, but I think we sort of just panicked a bit where we kind of booted the ball out and just, you know, hoped for somebody just to be there. I think there was a bit of a transition from when Perez came off, and actually against what most people would have actually expected, when he brought Perez off for Marino, I was thinking, well, could this be it? It was Shelvey or Marino's going to take that number 10. Which ones are going to be, and could this maybe lead to competition for Perez moving forward to accommodate Hayden, Shelvey and Marino on the same side? But what actually happened is Hayden was actually pushed further forward, and I've said this a while. As much as he is an absolute, he's usually employed as a defensive midfielder, I've seen a lot of box-to-box qualities in Isaac Hayden, late runs, and I think if you look at his mobility, he's probably more mobile than Shelvey and Marino, so he could assume this Jose role of assisting the striker by chasing down, high pressing, putting defenders under pressure, not giving them a minute to get comfortable on the ball so that they knock it long and hopefully lose possession, ask questions of them. And Hayden was able to do that very well, I thought. He was the natural choice, and he made himself busy in that final third. And he was a good target man, actually, to his feet. Or Marino made his presence known when he came on. He was battling hard. He was using he's got really good use of strength, and he uses his shoulders and body weight to get people to get his body in the way of opposition and ball. And he did that really, really well. Shelvey had a few nice touches and a few solid passes. I felt some of his delivery was quite good, but again, I just want to see a little bit more from Shelvey. A couple of errors and giving the ball away, but Richie worked hard. I think Atsu started well, but maybe disappeared a bit in the second half. So, but the thing with when Gale came on, I knew he was going to come on because I knew that Joselu wasn't. I guess once Perez went off, we were kind of missing a bit of pace up front as well. Once Perez came off, but when Joselu came off for Dwight Gale, is it just me or did Dwight Gale seem to be like a yard off the pace? He seems to have lost a yard of pace for me. He's a lot slower, and I thought he was really, as much as we didn't give him much, he just seemed a bit ineffectual for me, and he was, we know that he's easily barged off the ball by strong defenders, and you know, him and Van Dijk is it's no contest really. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's going to last past January, to be honest. I wonder if those rumours of him possibly almost being sold at the end of the transfer deadline day in summer, whether there was, you know, genuine interest in him and genuine interest on Newcastle's part to sell him to fund moves for another striker. I'd be very surprised if we weren't in the market for another striker, given that, as you know, as much as Hossley works hard, and I don't think we've got any striker who we can fully depend on in the Premier League, and that's going to be really important. Premier League, you need to score goals ultimately. I thought the defensive discipline was good there, and I thought it was an embattled performance. It was a rugged point. I thought it carries momentum on from Liverpool, from the other side of the international break, that were, you know, difficult to actually beat. And the games that we've been beaten, it's been by 1 goal, except the Spurs game, and we're down to 10 men. So I think we've done pretty well there. So that puts us up into 9th. We maintain our position in 9th, up to 11 points. So we're 2 clear of Southampton, who are now on 9. And we're only 2 points behind the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal and Liverpool. So that it puts our start into perspective, given how we were kind of in turmoil at the end of the transfer window, having not signed the players that we clearly needed and Rafa wanted. But again, Rafa Benitez, he's creating a team that's bigger than the sum of its parts. He's created competition. He's created players, a mentality in the players where they want to fight. You know, we fought today, and I think it would have been an injustice had we gone home completely empty-handed. 3 points would have been, you know, absolutely incredible. But on reflection, we have all settled for the point, and I think the point's been really, really good. So we can carry on this momentum into the next game and just keep going. I think it's Crystal Palace we play next at home, and I'd be very surprised if we didn't fancy ourselves. I mean, I know they've had a really impressive. I mean, they're always going to break their duck somehow, and in spectacular fashion. It was kind of typical that they did so against Chelsea. But I think away from home they're going to be a different proposition, and I think St James's Park is becoming a really difficult place to come to again. So I think we'll fancy our chances, and it'll be a slightly different proposition to if Crystal Palace had gone down to yet another humiliating defeat. But I think we'll still have the edge on them. Again, I don't think we'll be scoring many. We might win by the odd goal, possibly. I think we'll be absolutely aiming for the win rather than being pleased with a draw. What I don't want to do is for us to slip down into kind of draws and possible defeats. We want to try and win as many games, and I think that Palace game is a really, really winnable game. So hopefully we can make use of that, and we can push on and hopefully get ahead of Burnley, or just maintain the status quo of being in the top half. It's going to put us in a really good position moving forward. Keep confidence high. The minute we start slipping, that's dangerous, and the bottom half of the Premier League is a mixed bag. Everyone's fighting, everyone's slipping up, everyone's making mistakes. 2 wins can take you from 15th up into 8th. You know, that's how tight it is at the bottom of in the Premier League at the moment, certainly this early on in the season. So I think if we can keep confidence, we'll certainly take massive positives from the Liverpool draw and then this draw today at Southampton. I think we've done pretty well today. I'm pleased with the effort. Really pleased for Perez, probably my man of the match, given that he was... I know he came off very early, but he put in an absolutely dogged display and was involved in both the goals. Florian Lejeune nearly won it for us in the dying minutes when it was cleared off the line by Stephen Davis, I think it was. But that header from the corner, I mean, that was on target, that was going in the corner. Forster was completely beaten. So yeah, we might have nicked it at the end there, but we're probably very, very lucky to keep 11 men on the pitch after the Edlin challenge. So I think 2-2, draw, fair result, really. I'll definitely take that. I'm sure you will too. On to the next one. Thanks very much for watching this Toon Network match report with me, Adam. Please follow us on Twitter. Get involved on Facebook as well. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you're watching there. If you're listening to this as an audio podcast, we're on SoundCloud and we're on iTunes as well. Anyway, you'll hear from me after the next game at Palace. Thanks very much. I've been Adam. This has been a Toon Network match report. Southampton 2, Newcastle 2. Get in. See you later. Bye-bye.